Give Me Grace, a podcast by Alan and Nolan, is exclusively sponsored by the Corn Dog Company. Established in 2016, the Corn Dog Company has been serving up honey-dipped corn dog perfection in numerous locations around the country. The Corn Dog Company, home of the honey dog. With all that said, enjoy the show.
Oh yeah. Alright. Somebody's hiding, it's drowning my ice box. Somebody's cold one is giving me chills. Guess I'll just close my eyes. Oh yeah, alright, feels good inside. Flip on the telly, wrestle with Jimmy. Something is bubbling.
Welcome to episode 11 of Give Me Grace. This is a wonderful project that is the brainchild of Nolan Mickelson, whom you see to my right or left. I don't even know on Zoom. and
Sometimes I'm right, sometimes I'm left.
Yeah, that's right. He brought me, Alan, or Corky Hansen along, for which I'm grateful. And we have special guests. But first, a Nolan note.
Not much of a note. Exciting. Another person made contact with today, so that's always fun.
Yeah.
And then just this episode is going to be a tribute. So
Yeah, this is a little different one. You're right. Not a
We'll
classmate necessarily, but
not classmates, but we'll interview them and
yeah,
somewhat, and then we'll talk to them about their parents. So
sounds great. Okay. As far as Quirky Quip, a takeaway from our meeting with Kath, it was really long. I was so cool. Yeah, I was so cool.
I think she felt bad, but it was all good. So
No, yeah, she felt bad that it was a long one, but I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was awesome. It was awesome. I was so happy to be able to talk about her dad a little bit because, you know, back in those days, there wasn't like an email that you sent out about your mission to everybody. You know, you wrote individual letters to people, and I don't even know if I wrote her dad when I was in Argentina, and I'd do it differently had I been wiser. So I was glad to at least talk about him with Kath. At the very least,
it was good. So 2 episodes in a row were honoring
all right, so
teachers and coaches and stuff. So.
I know that's so cool. All right, so we're ready to go. We get them in. Here we go. I can see Brent Keele.
Hey, how are you guys?
How's it going? And Collette, it's good to see you both.
Hello.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us.
Of course.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So, okay, so Brent, you're zooming us from your office, it looks like.
Oh, my office at the house.
Your office at the house. Yeah, I guess that's what I meant. You got some books there. Give us an overview of your books there. What do you got?
Oh my goodness. There's everything under the sun back there. And most of them I haven't read because my wife is just wife and kids are avid readers. So there's lots of stuff, I read boring stuff. They all make fun of me because I've got lots of tax books and lots of legal books and
okay. Okay. Very good. Very good.
I want to ask a question real quick to both of them. I know what year Collette graduated in 87.
Okay.
Yep.
Right.
I was wondering about that. Okay.
And Brent, what year did you graduate?
94.
94. Okay. You were a little younger than us by a little ways. So
A little bit.
Well, you're the first people we've had on that weren't class of 89. So
That's
maybe
right.
that's good, or by the end
Yeah.
of this episode, we'll get to know more about you all. So
Yeah. So 94, I'm just thinking. So actually with Collette, 87, that means you had just graduated when your dad came back, when your family came back.
Yes.
Yeah, Grace, you had
I
just
graduated in Spanish Fork, so
Okay, yeah.
I was
So
down there.
that's why we didn't see you.
Yeah.
You were out of there.
yeah.
Yeah. And Brent, you were probably right between my brothers then,
I
maybe.
was between
Lane and Chris.
Nate and Chris. Absolutely.
Yeah, okay. I'm oriented now.
Yeah, I was over at your house causing problems now and then.
Yeah, well, I'm sure nobody noticed with all the other problems that were already there.
We were probably upstairs causing problems, and you guys were downstairs causing
Could have
problems.
been. It could have been. So
Awesome.
Let's dive in. What we'll do first of all is ask you a few questions about yourself, and then obviously we'll talk about your parents as well throughout kind of the questions. So we'll kind of shift back and forth at times. But first of all, I guess we'll start with Collette. Tell us where do you live right now, and then Brent, after she's done, you can tell us where you live.
I am currently in Portland, Oregon. I've been here since '96. So
Oh, Portland's a nice town.
yeah, yep. If you
Awesome.
pick the right areas.
Fair enough.
Yeah, it's a beautiful place, though. I love being up here.
Now,
Awesome.
are you right in Portland or one of the suburbs or?
I am currently right in Portland.
Okay,
Okay.
very good.
Awesome.
yeah, I'm in Fort Collins, Colorado.
Oh, nice place too.
It is. It's a great little community.
Colorado State.
Yes, sir.
Oh, the Rams.
Yep.
Yeah, we've had our tussles, the Boise State Broncos with the Rams.
Yeah, they're
Okay.
not very big tussles. Boise State kind of beats up on them, at least the football sport.
We lost to them, I think, last year or the year before in a heartbreaking game where we just weren't prepared to play.
Yeah.
Yeah. So onward and upward. Awesome.
Okay.
Yeah, Fort Collins is also a nice town.
It is.
Cool.
Collette, tell us, what do you do? I know you're
Um,
busy, but what do you do?
I have two jobs I have for several years now. I currently work at Portland Community College. It's the largest community college in the Pacific Northwest, and I've been there for 24 years.
Wow.
I manage computer labs and hire a lot of student workers and teach them how to help people with their homework and do all that kind of stuff. And in between terms, I move a lot of computers around and help set up new labs or move out the old, move in the new, that kind of stuff.
Okay.
Okay.
My
I work-
other job, I do phlebotomy. I draw blood for what used to be Legacy Health, but they just sold out to LabCorp. So I work for LabCorp evenings and weekends.
Okay. Very cool.
Yeah.
I work closely with the educational technologists here at Carroll College where I work. So
Nice.
yeah, and I
You
know
get
your
it.
job a little bit. So with the advent of the laptop, have the computer labs changed in your neck of the woods like they have here?
Not as much as we anticipated that they would, but it's getting a little bit less. So
Yeah.
fewer
Okay.
computers need to be available, have more space for people to sit with their laptops. And
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Libraries don't have computers or books in them anymore. It's strange. Yeah.
not as much. Yep.
I'm zooming from my studio in our library, and it's a podcasting studio. So that's the
Nice.
kind of thing that we have now in these buildings. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Awesome. What about you, Brent? I'm sensing attorney. Is that
I am. I'm an attorney. I'm a very boring attorney. At this point in my career, I do tax and estate planning, business planning type work. So
okay? So like a Fox or NBC series would not be your
No.
work life necessarily.
no, they would be a one show, one episode and done.
Yeah, you would have to stumble on some crazy conspiracy and be running from mobsters or something at that
Yep.
point.
So yeah, I started a law firm last year
Oh,
actually.
wow.
I'd worked as an attorney for years before, then worked for one family for over the last decade. Ran a family office, and that was a lot more exciting. But I was gone so much. I was in Europe all the time. I was in the Caribbean all the time, and just gone a ton. And my law partner now, convinced me a year and a half ago, to start a law firm where we could be home every night. And so it's we're having a lot of fun with it at this point.
Awesome. That sounds great. What was the hardest thing about making the switch to your own shop?
just the unknowns. I mean,
Yeah.
we'd both been attorneys for a long time. We'd both worked for one family for a long time, and run businesses, and not even your typical law stuff. So the unknown and okay, we're going to go do this, and we don't really know how it's going to go, and we don't have any clients. Like, we're going to start from scratch and just build it from the ground up. And it's been pretty amazing. Honestly, we're a year in where we have to get a new office. We've grown much more quickly than we anticipated, and we're having fun. We really are. We're having fun. I like meeting with the clients we're meeting with. And early in my career, I could only deal with was it a bigger law firm? I could only deal with very high net worth clients, like the people I ended up working for years. And now we can deal with everybody, and I enjoy that.
Awesome.
It's a good time.
That's cool. That's so your second chapter was one of the families said, "Hey, I like what you do. Just come work for us."
Yeah, I was, come work for us and do legal work for us. And
did you do more than tax stuff then? You did more wide range?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I did all sorts of things I wasn't qualified for.
Okay. I know about that.
When you work for one family and deal with all their different businesses. I mean, I was in Europe all the time because they had me go over and figure out what was going on with the wood pellet business of all things. And,
okay. So you're on flights to places like Googling stuff so that you can sound authoritative when you land.
Absolutely. Thank goodness for Google.
That's great practice. That's awesome.
Let's go back to Collette. Tell us about your family and if you have any pets.
Oh boy. I always wanted to be a mom, but it didn't work out for me. But I currently have 2 sons with my partner, and they're both 1'6'8" and 1'6'5", so I only get to hug them at their hips.
Oh wow.
They're so tall. Okay. But
how old are they?
Both great guys. 29 and 27.
Okay. They live around there, around Portland, or?
Yes. Shane, the oldest, lives right here in Portland. I'm just working and trying to find somebody to be with, and he's a really good guy. And then the youngest, Clay, he and his wife have 3 kids. So we've got 3 grandkids.
Nice.
6, 3, and 1.
Fun.
So, yeah, they're a blast. Awesome. We have a lot of fun. The 6-year-old is already up to my shoulder. Of course, I'm pretty short, but a 6-year-old at my shoulder is pretty tall.
That's great that they're all right there, huh?
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Cool. Grandkids are about an hour away, but they come up and stay with grandmas, and we go down and watch them so mom and dad can get out of the house once in a while. It's really a lot of fun. I love being a grandma.
I bet. That's awesome.
Then you can spoil them and send them home, right? That's what they
Exactly. Yeah. Send them home with a bag of sugary stuff and worn out.
Do you have pets?
Yes. We're kind of crazy cat people. We've always had dogs, but my partner's dog that she had for a million years passed, and she just can't wrap around another one. So we have cats, and we currently have 6. It's insane. But the youngest one is a Bengal, and she is just a hoot and just loves harassing the others. But they're all 2 to 3 years apart. So, well, the oldest 2 were from my brother Dave and Carrie and his wife from one of their cats. We got them first, and then all related except the youngest one. So,
you said a Bengal?
Yes.
What's that?
Is
it a breed of cat?
They're a breed of cat, a wild cat.
Okay.
She's purebred, but they sold her to somebody that was not taking care of her, put her in a shed and with her and her brother, and they went and took them back. And my friend who was helping with all of it to get them back and get them taken care of called me, and she said, "I'm coming from Portland, Maine out to Portland, Oregon. Do you want her?" So got to pay for a flight for about $150 and got a $2,000 cat.
Nice.
Crazy. But she's amazing. I'll have to send you a picture.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Just what you want, cat pictures for your show.
That's why we asked about pets, because it's fun to see people's pets and their families. So
Yeah.
All right, Brent, your turn. Tell us about your family and pets too.
All right. So I have 3 kids. I've been married for 25 years now. We have 3 kids. Our oldest is 18, just graduated from high school. He's actually in Brazil on a mission right now. He's one more week in the Brazil MTC before he learns that he does not know Portuguese. So
Yeah, that's what's that is the next thing.
it's the
Yeah.
next step for him for sure. And I have a daughter who's 16 and a 12-year-old son.
Awesome.
They're lots of fun.
Got your hands full then?
Yeah, they're fun.
And do you have any wild ones running around?
Well, other than the 12-year-old, yeah. During COVID, we're those people that caved and got dogs. We never had dogs before. My wife has allergies to everything, and so that was the easy thing. She told our kids, "We can't have dogs; they make me sick." And our youngest at that point found out that they have these other kind of dogs.
Yeah.
Two
Oh, a
golden doodles.
hypoallergenic one.
Yeah, we got one, and then since my wife caved the first time, she's become total dog mom. Don't know if she likes the dogs more or the kids more. It's kind of up in the air. So
Yeah. And then you feel bad if you have one because they're like lonely, so you need to get a second one.
it's ridiculous. It
kind of spirals from there, right?
Yeah.
Like.
So,
tell us, I don't know. I mean, I guess you can kind of both tell us, but tell us about your brothers and sisters and who, where they're at and stuff real quick.
Go for it, Brent.
Should I run through the gamut?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Where's Jeff?
So
I'm going to count them off. There's 5 other siblings. So here we go.
There are. Jeff is in Porterville, California. He's a professor there. And he's got grandkids and he's keeping busy. Rick is in Spanish Fork, Utah.
Okay.
He is pursuing a passion with horses, and he's got 6 girls. And he's a grandpa now. And
wow.
Yeah. So then Colleen is in Portland. Probably have her on the show. So her and Claire.
Yeah, I talked to her. So
yeah, I think
we'll have her on later on down the road.
Yeah.
Good. Then Alan, my younger brother, passed away in 2018.
Oh, that's right.
So his wife and kids are in the Ogden, Clinton area in Utah. He's got a son at University of Utah, another one at Utah State, and then 2 younger ones that are still at home. So we get to see them throughout. We were at the NCAA basketball tournament in Utah with them earlier this year, so it was a lot of fun.
Nice.
Stay with them. And then David's in Layton area in Utah. He works as a realtor, and he and his wife are there doing that. So
cool.
So you're all spread out a little
6
bit.
kids together.
6.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. You guys are spread out a little bit. That's awesome. Do you get together much? I found with my siblings that we really just get together funerals. Sadly, we haven't found a way to get past that.
It's been that way. I think the last time we were all together with everybody was my parents' 50th.
Okay.
That wasn't a funeral, unfortunately.
Yeah, that wasn't right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So
I think that's actually the same for us. Yeah.
Yeah.
It either takes a funeral or a fishing trip.
Yeah. I guess weddings can do it if they're if it works out.
True.
But yeah, 50th anniversary. Yeah.
So Brent, that's the perfect segue. Let's talk about your parents. So they had a 50th anniversary. Let's go back, way back before that. And my question is, where did your parents grow up and how did they meet each other? And either one of you can answer, or you can both chime in.
So I'll start, I guess. My dad grew up most of the time in Spanish Fork, Utah. That's where he spent his younger years. But when he was a sophomore, junior in high school, I think between his sophomore and junior year, moved to Idaho Falls. His dad was a contractor. There was a housing development there, and he went to Bonneville High School there in Idaho Falls. He was the oldest of 10 and loved sports, loved baseball. Baseball was his jam. That was what he liked. And they didn't have a baseball team when he got there. And So he started playing football, and he told his dad at one point he was going to do track, and his dad laughed at him. He's like, "You're going to need a horse to do track." Just kind of funny. But track and football are what actually got him to college. He would not have gone, but for a scholarship. He was, of the siblings, he was the only one that did pursue his degree of all 10. So until later, some of them got a little later. My mom grew up in Manan, Idaho, which is just outside of Rigby. She went to Rigby High School.
Yeah.
And the funny thing about their first meeting, my dad, the 10 kids trying to pay for his parents, he didn't have a car. He didn't have a way to get around. And back then you just hitchhiked. So he was hitchhiking from Rexburg back to Idaho Falls. And my grandmother and my mother picked him up. My grandmother picked him up. My mother was embarrassed, didn't say a word the whole entire trip, driving to Idaho Falls, but they gave him a ride. And the next year, she was a year younger than him. The next year, she was at Rick's College as well, and they met again then at that point. But yeah, she picked him up as a hitchhiker is really how they first met.
How about that? That's awesome. That's our second hitchhiking story on the project so far. That's an
don't hear
awesome.
about
better.
those
That's,
much
that's a
anymore.
better hitchhiking story.
That's really good.
What did you say, Collette?
You don't find hitchhiking stories much anymore.
No,
No.
that's true. The world has changed quite a bit in that day, in that
Yeah.
way, hasn't it? Yep.
Thank goodness.
That's fantastic.
Anything to add, Collette, on that story?
Just
How they met?
Just that they met in one of the older buildings on Rick's campus, and Mom was up on the stairs and Dad walked in, and she was getting a drink and stood up and saw him, and she says, "That's it." She knew.
How about
Did
that?
you remember that was the guy, though?
Yeah.
They remembered that?
She was too embarrassed during the ride to say
Ah.
anything. But,
Oh,
yeah.
wow. That's
So-
awesome. Yeah.
They only had 4 dates before they got married. 4 dates.
They moved quick, huh?
It was quite a bit of time because Mom went to Utah to work as a nurse, and Dad stayed and worked with Grandpa and Grandma Thomas. And but over that time frame, they only had 4 actual dates.
Wow.
Okay.
How about that? That's awesome.
So you said
Yeah.
you celebrated their 50th anniversary not too long ago. What year did they get married?
It would have been 62 or 63.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, they were young.
Yeah. And Jeff was born in 64, so
Mhm.
October 64. Yeah. So
Yeah.
62.
Okay. Awesome.
So they met, and then tell us, how did they end up in Grace? What was the path that brought them to Grace?
Do you want that one, Collette?
No,
Okay.
you got you got the attorney memory. I have an old tired lady memory.
So, they finished school. My mom did her 2-year nursing degree there at Rick's College back when they had that as an option. And so she started working, and my dad went down and finished his education at BYU. And his first job out of school was teaching and coaching in Soda Springs.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
They
That's
originally
right.
went to Soda Springs and worked there for several years before, I think it was 74, 75, they moved to Grace. He worked with George Kimball in Soda Springs, and then
Yeah.
they both made it to Grace and ended up being neighbors and started a trout farm together and
Yeah.
all the craziness.
I laughed because we just had Kathy on.
Yeah.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah. We're
Yes.
talking about the trout farm. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Awesome.
such an interesting thing because I think George Kimball also started in Soda, right?
Yes, they met in Soda. They were friends there and decided to go to Grace.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's why we had you both on back to back
I guess so.
episodes.
Yeah.
We're getting the
Just
full
I
story.
don't remember the name of that lane, but you were the only 2 houses on, as I recall.
Yeah. Yep, it's they call it Black Canyon Lane now.
Okay. Yeah.
So
Very cool.
ended up in Grace. Obviously, so many of our class had him as a teacher in junior high, coaching, track, of course, but he coached other things as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
Coach football. Yeah. Yeah.
And junior high girls basketball for a lot of years.
Okay.
Okay. Awesome.
Did he coach you when you were in junior high?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
How was that?
Amazing. If I could have every coach be like Dad, amazing.
Yeah.
There's really nobody better at teaching kids the fundamentals and the basics and helping them learn to love it and really learn how to work hard.
Yeah.
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 I remember him as my track coach more than anything, really. He also coached my football team, but in track, I thought he was teaching me how to be a good track athlete, and then I realized later that he was teaching me
Yep.
how to be a good person,
Yeah.
how to succeed in life. That's amazing. I'll tell a story probably later about that, or yeah, I don't
You
know.
might as well.
Tell it now.
Let's do
Would love
story
to
time
hear it.
now.
All
I think
right. So
we're here. Let's make story time now.
this is my story about Coach Keele. So I didn't run track my freshman or sophomore season. Coach Keele was trying to get a track program. He really coveted, in a good way, not in a breaking the commandment way, but he loved the track program in Malad. They had such a great track program, and he talked about that all the time. That he wanted to build up a track program. He always would say, in other sports, in basketball or football, you put out your best five, and they put out their best five, or your best 11 and their best 11. So, but in track, if you have 80, your 80 goes against their 20. And he'd always talk about that, of like just building it up, and it never took. Grace had something about track. I'm not sure, laziness in students or something.
Hey,
But I start.
you talking about me?
Maybe.
People that
gonna-
maybe didn't
Still said it.
understand the
I didn't
sport.
say it.
You're foreshadowing my story. Yeah.
So I started running the 800, and really my senior year, Chad Kirby should have run the 800 because he would have beat me in the 800, but he was also really good at the 400. And so Coach Keele kept him at the 400. He really probably should have moved him to the 8, but I think he did it because I couldn't run the 4. And the only race I ever won was district, and we had a really slow year in the 800. All the better athletes were running the medley, I think, the medley relay. And so I won it, but it was at a really slow time. It was like 2:08. And we were a week away from regionals. And I ran a 2:08. And the last guy, the fourth place guy in the other region, in the other district that we were going against, ran like a 2:04. So Coach Keele pulled me aside and he said, next Saturday, you're going to have to run the race of your life to qualify for state, because they only took the top 4. And then he put his arm around me, and he very confidently said, but if there's anybody I know who can do it, it's you. And that's just really cool, right? I don't know if that's true. I doubt it was true, but I believed it. I believed in myself, and I qualified for state, and it was just awesome. And I don't think I would have done it without his encouragement.
His belief in you.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. It was amazing. So he was just always so gentle and wise and calm, and just different from other coaches.
So I'll tell 2 stories right now about Coach Keele. As a 7th grader, I've got the picture of us as a 7th grade class, and he's up there in the corner. And I remember the thing I remember about him first, coming from Thatcher Elementary, I didn't really know him, but he was such a big man, big bulging muscles, right? And he had that paddle. He had a paddle that he had drilled holes in. And that was intimidating enough to, like, okay, in Coach Keele's class, I was probably a pretty good kid, because I didn't want to test that. He would show us like how fast he could get that paddle moving, because the air moved through those holes. And I'm like, okay, that's good enough for me. I don't need to see any other proof. But when I was a junior, I had never done track, because my brother Stan was good in track and went to state, and I think they won on their relay team when he was a senior. My sister Letty ran track. I think Coach Keele coached her as well, and she was Jeff's age.
Yep.
And then Sean did really well in state. I think he even set some records at Grace High School at that time. I think they've been broken since then. And then so Coach Keele saw me in the gym one day, and I'm like, oh no, I know what he's going to ask me. He's like, Mickelson, you're a Mickelson. Why don't you consider running track? And I said, you got the wrong guy. I said, they were all fast. I said, I'm not fast. For whatever reason, I'm not a fast runner. And he says, well, you could run distance. So he convinced me to come out as a junior and run the mile. And I think I went to 2 events and actually ran, but most of the time I just went to the event and kind of hung around with people and chit chatted and stuff. That was who I was. But so kind of like Alan said, Corky said, he had confidence, or at least he tried to show you that you could do things maybe that you didn't think you could. And I appreciated that in him. And I was grateful. Again, I think he saw in me maybe the Mickelson gene, but I didn't get that gene from my brothers and sisters, like that speed that they had. So those are my 2 stories. I've got one later I'll tell too, but let's hear maybe some stories from the 2 of you, especially about both your parents, your mom and dad. Tell us some of your most memorable moments with your parents.
There's so many. Building that fish farm when I was young, we would go down and build a fire, and they'd use these old metal weed whackers that look like a scythe almost.
Mm-hmm.
And they would cut down stinging nettle and sagebrush and all that while they were cooking TV dinner type, like tinfoil dinners on the fire.
Yeah.
And us kids would be helping pull weeds and knock stuff down and move rocks and stuff to make a spot for Dad to put the concrete for a fish trough. Those were really, really good. They worked so dang hard. I have no idea. I mean, I never had kids myself, but I don't know how they had 7 kids and built the fish farm and worked as a nurse and a teacher and coaching.
Yeah.
I have no idea how they did it. And we had a huge, huge garden. And we produced a lot of stuff out of that garden. And there's still some of it when Dad passed, when we cleaned out the pantry downstairs. He's got a really big storeroom.
Wow.
There's still stuff from back then stored. Of course, we threw it out at that point.
Yeah.
Save everything.
Yeah.
Some of those memories are my best, or my favorite as a little kid. As far as track, and he was the best basketball coach I ever had, for sure. But track, he taught me how to run the hurdles. And I was too short really to run the hurdles, so I had to learn how to alternate lead legs because I couldn't stride long enough to get through them. And my senior year, I had one of the fastest time in the state in Utah, and there was a mix up about what time they had the regional race. And so I ended up missing that race and didn't get to go to state, but I had made it in the 300 hurdles, which was not my race. I didn't like that kill myself.
That's a brutal one.
race.
Yeah.
And Dad said that, he says, you got to put everything from the 100 into this race. And and I know you can do it. And you should have done it before. And I remember running the second 200 and hearing Dad yell across the whole stadium, "Go, Collette, go." And it just kicked me in gear. And I ended up placing 5th, but I shouldn't have even gotten to the final. But things like that, where that voice and his belief in you, and he's being honest with you, made all the difference in the world in so many things for me.
Yeah. Very
It's
good.
really amazing how he can inspire people and he's honest with you about it. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Well, it
Awesome.
sounds like two or three of us have already shared kind of a similar story. How
Yeah.
about Brent? We can make it 3 out of 4 or 4 for 4.
Well, you know what's funny about being younger than you guys? I thought you were all super cool when you were in high school. So Corky, I remember you running the 800. I remember that. I think you placed at state, didn't you? Actually,
Yeah. I've got a story about that. Yeah.
yeah.
I did.
I remember some of those things. I also remember the paddle, and I'll tell you,
Yes.
he did not use a paddle at home. He had this routine.
Nope.
You'd grab you by one arm and you'd go around in a circle, and he'd kick and you'd try to jump over and over again. The paddle was
Punishment and
decoration.
training at the same time.
Yeah. The other thing that I remember about him that was kind of funny, you couldn't get away with this today, but for whatever reason, he was not a fan of long hair on guys or earrings.
Okay.
And
Yep.
So personal story, but then something else I remember. I'm curious to see if you guys remember this the same way as I do. But personal story as a freshman or sophomore, you remember where the football pads were at the high school down in that basement
Mm-hmm.
furnace room? I
Yeah.
mean,
Yes.
he's way down those stairs. So he's down there, and he was probably about my age now at this point, with glasses like I'm dealing with now, because and he was doing inventory of the football pads, and I had a magnetic earring on, and I went down with this. I had a bet with a couple buddies, and I lost the bet, and it wasn't funny. Like he went across, like he hurdled the football pads. That earring was coming out, and I'm going back up the stairs, pulling it off. He stepped on his glasses and broke them. I mean, he was just at that point in time. Those were things that he was funny about, and later on he didn't care, but at that point in time he cared. The one I'm curious if you remember, it seemed like he always scheduled the first football game of the year, at least when he came back, on the road. And he had this rule that you had to have your hair within your helmet, like had to be
Yeah.
up with helmet. And I remember him standing at the door of the bus for kids. If they wanted to get on and go to the game, you had tape scissors and haircuts that went kind of like this.
Oh, wow. I don't remember him cutting anybody's hair, but I remember Dave Shaw wore his hair long, but not in the back, in the
Yeah.
front. He wore it, so it was like
Right.
down to his chin. His bangs were down to his chin. So to skirt this rule, he would wear it slicked back. So his bangs would actually reach almost the nape of his neck.
Oh,
Yeah.
how funny.
But he did that to skirt Coach Keele's rule. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, it's funny he had that rule, because the other thing about him that I'll always remember, and it became even more as he got older, he loved people. Like, and you guys talk about how he saw what you could do and the best that
Yeah.
you could. He would always see the best in everybody, and it didn't matter if you were an athlete or not an athlete. If you're, a trouble causer, if you will, or the straight A golden child, he loved people. He
Yeah.
always saw the best in them. It was an amazing talent that he had.
Yeah.
So-
Yeah. He really did love students, and
Oh, yeah.
unabashedly. I remember when I was a junior in high school, I don't know if you remember this, Nolan, there was an assembly at the end of the year, the awards assembly, and Ryan Andresen had placed second in state in the 800. And the story was that he was boxed in. And so he had to jump out 2 lanes laterally during the stretch run to try to get to the leader. And he almost got him. And Coach Keele told that story. And then maybe I'm mixing up stories, but he told that story. And maybe it was a football assembly that he sang a Whitney Houston song a cappella in the assembly.
He had a heck of a voice.
He did
could
have
really
such a
sing.
good singing voice. Can you
Mhm.
imagine singing a song a cappella? It was like, give me one moment in time. It was like that one. And that might have been a football assembly. I don't remember when it was, but he sang that song. I mean, my version of hell would be they make me sing a song in front of high school students. It's incredible. Yeah. And it was just because he loved what he did and he loved students.
He did. I mean,
Yep.
I won't name names and things, but when he passed,
On this show, you can name names if you want to.
I can't for this one. Nolan,
fair enough.
you know some of these people, Nolan. So I'll just leave it at that and see if you can figure it out later. But there's a couple girls that were a year older than me, and they messaged me and said, I loved your dad. When we were in freshman year, junior high, something like that, he caught us smoking. Oh my goodness, smoking.
Wow.
You imagine. And they're both from pretty religious families that would have been a big deal with. And he just kind of looked at us and said, you guys know better than that. And they got in trouble. He would do the classic wall sit. You were in trouble for that.
Wall sit.
Not a word went back to the parents.
Yeah.
And he handled it there. And anyway, it was kind of funny to hear some of those things that I never knew. The stuff we would do with people.
Yeah, we throw around words, in education like student-centered, Collette, about that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Coach Keele was, right? He was student-centered. Nothing else mattered. Yeah.
I remember in junior high, and through the part of high school I was in Grace, that they always sent the kids that were struggling to Dad's classes.
Hmm.
And he loved those kids enough and believed in them enough that he helped them through it somehow, believing in them, just having somebody not think you're a hoodlum or not treat you like you're less than, to really open up to you and work with you. He could change anybody's life with just the way he loved people.
Yeah. He had a way of kind of showing you what your best could be. That was really cool.
And helping you realize it within yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a unique skill.
Yeah. It really is. Yeah.
He also is the teacher that gave me my lowest grade because
We would ride home better.
Yeah.
I'd get the where's your biology book, and it was in the locker, and we'd go back and forth, and that's my lowest grade all the way through grad school, through everything. My dad's freshman biology class.
That's awesome. So he won twice. He got to give you a low grade and then ground you for it.
Pretty much.
Well, you got him back. You made him bust his classes.
Yeah, that's right.
And then my mom, a lot of people knew her later in her career. She was the county health nurse, so she did things. And that was another, just kind of a funny story. They used to teach some maturation classes in junior high in 7th grade. And you know how cool that was to have your mom come teach you and your buddies about that in 7th
like
grade?
about puberty?
Oh, yeah,
that sounds awful. Maybe that's someone else's version of hell. That sounds.
So she did that. But the funniest part wasn't that. The funniest part was the ride home. She's like, now that's what I have to tell people for my job. This is all,
oh boy.
Oh, man.
This is it's real cut and dried. So, it's kind of fun.
Yeah, she did that when I was in school too. So I got
That's an awkward ride home.
And here's the reality.
Can I ride with Dad and let him ask me about biology?
Like every time.
We all did ride to school with Dad in the mornings. We'd ride to school with Dad and then, be with Mom later. It's interesting.
How about that? That's awesome.
You guys know that they used to call some of Dad's early track athletes, they called him Blood and Guts Keele.
Is that right?
Blood and Guts Keele, because he'd make him run until he almost threw up.
Yeah, I think throwing up was part of the football training camp every year, right?
Yes.
Run them till they throw up.
Yeah. Well, that was the age for that, for sure. Yeah.
You know what was funny? When my dad passed, we did something kind of cool with the community. Rather than doing flowers, they said, hey, if anybody wants to donate flowers, don't do that. If you want to send money, we're going to do a little track scholarship fund for him in his name that we give to local kids from Grace and Soda, because he coached both programs. And a lot of people really came through. So there were several kids over those last 2 years that got decent scholarships. I think they're $1,200 scholarships that some of these kids got. The way we decided where the scholarships went is we reached out to the current track coaches of both programs. And Jeremy Smith's the coach in Grace now.
Oh, really?
Different Jeremy Smith than the one you probably remember growing up there.
Okay, fair enough. Not Nikki and Trudy's brother.
Not Nick.
Oh,
not that Jeremy.
Okay.
But the guy's name is Jeremy Smith, which I thought was funny too, because I remember. But he said, you know what? Your dad, did he coach in 83? Because he coached before you guys were there. And 83 had been the last time that Grace had ever won a district or conference championship. And he was the coach then.
Huh.
After that, his dad, my grandfather died in 84. And when that happened, my dad quit teaching, quit coaching, moved to Utah. That's how Collette ended up graduating Spanish Fork.
Okay.
It kind of took over my grandfather's family business for a while.
Okay. So I was wondering how that came about. Okay.
Yeah,
I like to tell myself it was about me getting a scholarship, but
it did lead to that. Absolutely.
Nobody finds you in Grace, but in Utah, maybe.
Yeah, that's good. Awesome.
So they had won the district championship, and Coach Smith, who's there now, he wanted to know, does anybody know the time? So he talked to Jeff. My older brother Jeff was on that team with probably some of your older siblings.
Letty was Jeff's age, but I think Kelly Havlin was probably on that team.
Yep.
Yeah.
I know they did well.
There was a group. I mean, I can't even remember all the names. I remember some of them.
Yeah.
But it was kind of funny to see that connection. So when he came back and the track program had kind of dropped off, you were the start of trying to build that up again.
Okay.
Coach Smith, who's there now, actually got him back to the top where they'd won a conference championship and done some things, which was kind of a cool tie-in.
Yeah.
And the Soda Springs coach is Jeff Horsley. He grew up there. The fun story about that is Dad coached his father when he was young.
Mhm.
Wow.
And when I was in high school, Jeff was a couple years older than me. Jeff went on and ran college track at Idaho State, but he was at Soda Springs. And at the time, they didn't have much of a track program. And so his dad called our dad, said, "Hey, could you help him out?" And so I remember him working with him and helping him out. And, he's coaching a kid that wasn't on his team, helping him become better. And that's just kind of who he was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was kind of a cool story. So there was a tie back to both those coaches, and it was fun for us as a family to see some of that and put some of that together. And that the community of grace and the people that contributed to that was cool. It was really cool.
That's awesome.
Collette talked on something that I wanted to bring up too. So
Yeah.
a lot of people, maybe they knew or maybe they didn't know, but your dad was excellent with cement and concrete. And I remember one of my favorite summers growing up. I think him and Rick would come down to our farm and worked on a project building some barns and things for us.
Yeah.
And what I remember is that was the summer that Coca-Cola was doing this promotion, Coke the Real Thing. You try to collect the bottle caps, and if you could spell out Coke the Real Thing, you were supposed to win something. So while they were working, it was my brother Sean and I's job to go to Bailey's and get the sodas or the pops, whatever. And I just have that memory. And then once it was finished, we could ride our bikes down in there. It was so fun, like almost like bike ramps and stuff. So that was one of the memories I have about him, not just at school or coaching, but Mr. Keele, the cement worker, man.
Yeah. I worked with Coach Keele one summer. It was between my junior and senior year on a project at the Easy Way. He was putting the siding on the metal siding on the Easy Way, and he hired me for that. So I got to work with him one summer.
I remember that actually, Corky. I worked with you.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I don't know if you remember this, but I was, the knucklehead kid, and I stood up under a window and split my head open.
I do remember that.
And I came around. I just thought I'd hit my head, and I came around to the front, and you're like, "Oh my goodness!"
Yes, blood everywhere. I don't think I grew up in my house, and I don't think I'd seen that much blood. So that's how much blood there was.
Yeah, I vividly remember that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I remember you were the one that looked at me because I'm like, "What's wrong?"
Yeah, I do remember that.
We're finding out through these episodes that I think Corky worked with everybody at least one summer.
Yeah. Yeah. I had some interesting. I worked at the fish farm too.
I believe it.
Yeah. Yeah. It was that same summer, I think. Worked at the fish farm.
That's another thing. He hired lots of kids to come work with him during the summer.
Yeah.
And I have lots of buddies that spent time working, and and he would, as a kid of his, as one of his kids, we'd always have. I hate sandwiches to this day. I don't like sandwiches. We always eat sandwiches, and they weren't great. But we'd sit down and we'd have the sandwich at the middle of the day, and it seemed like at least 3 out of the 5-6 days a week we'd get the same lecture. Do you know why I do this? I do this so you kids will learn to work, and you need to get an education. That's such crap. Like he loved doing cement work.
Yeah, interesting.
He was a master at it, so you do love what you're a master at.
Yeah.
But he was so good at so many things.
Mm-hmm.
When we came home, Collette can tell you this. When we would come home, one of the things, after we'd been gone for a while, one of the things that just happened is he would drive around and show us the most recent projects that he'd worked on. Like,
always.
He loved it. He took pride in it. He enjoyed it. And even when he was older and really couldn't do it anymore, there were people out in the community who came and talked to me and said, "Hey, your dad, he just showed up and we had a mess, and he just stepped in and told us how to fix it and helped us, and he just loved to help people, and he loved his concrete."
Yeah.
When he quit teaching, he kept doing cement work. Like, it wasn't because he was teaching us how to work. It was something that he just thoroughly enjoyed.
It's
All
funny
of us
to-
kids, I think every one of us worked for dad. Even Colleen worked for dad for a little while. So
Hmm.
all of us did.
Brent, you said that my dad did cement projects too as he got older. And we would do the same thing. We'd ride around even all the way over to Montpelier to look at his projects. So I think he learned some of the things from that summer working with your dad. So your dad had an impact on my dad. So kind of funny how
That's
that worked.
cool.
And then you talked about sandwiches. That segues right into something I think that we can talk about now. We're going to ask you two what are your favorite foods and things, but we're also going to say maybe you can remember what were some of your parents' favorite things too. So you don't like sandwiches. What do you like, Brent? What's your favorite food?
Favorite food. Ugh. I unfortunately I like everything a bit too much. um, I do love a good steak, and we eat a lot of pizza around here. Those are high on the list. As dessert, I learned about creme brulee late in life. But good creme
You're
brulee,
making up for lost time.
Oh yeah, I mean we didn't eat fancy stuff growing up. That was in the fancy category of our place.
It's hard to eat fancy stuff when you live in Grace too. When you were there, it's not easy.
We did eat lots
want
of potatoes.
That's true.
Yeah.
A lot of potatoes and a lot of trout.
Oh, I would imagine you
Trout
had
with
your share of
potatoes,
trout.
huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's your favorite food, Colette?
I can't decide because like Brent, I like just about everything. It's more likely that I find something that I don't like and can name that than things that I do like.
So
I like just about everything, but Italian's probably my favorite.
okay.
I don't know why, it just is.
Let's say Colette, what do you think that your father's favorite food was?
Dill pickles.
Oh, interesting.
He had dill pickles everywhere all the time. He'd make cheese sandwiches and dill pickles and bring them down to, when he'd cook. And it was almost always grilled cheese and a dill pickle. And even towards the end, when he'd get really bad cramps in his legs, he kept dill pickle juice on his headboard to drink that to get rid of the cramps in his legs.
Yeah.
I do the same thing. I bought him dill pickle juice popsicles. He used those for a few years too. I still have some of those in my freezer here.
The first game of our senior year, speaking of away games, was in Bear Lake. And we knew we were a good team, and this was a good test for us. And it was super hot. It was probably 95 or something for that game. And Coach Keele had all of the water things filled up with pickle juice.
Yes.
So we wouldn't cramp. It was disgusting. I don't remember cramping though. So yeah.
Brent,
It works.
What about your mom, Brent? What did she like to eat?
You know what she loved? She loved shrimp. And this is the thing. She had a mild allergy to it. She would
It was
eat
worth it.
Drove us crazy. She would eat it, especially older in life. My wife's a nurse practitioner, and she'd come and she'd order shrimp, and then she'd be like, "Oh, my tongue's tingling and my lips." I'm like, "Don't do that," But she loved it.
Power through. That's awesome.
Yeah.
She did that when she was visiting me once. I didn't know because when I was little, she didn't have an allergy issue, but she ate so much shrimp that it kind of developed. And she hadn't told me that. And I went over and took her to a crab place over in Vancouver, Washington, and we're sitting there and it's rush hour. All the freeways are jam packed. And she gets her shrimp and she starts going, "Oh, my lips are getting fat. And, oh, my tongue's," and I'm like, "What's going on?" And she goes, "Oh, I have a little allergy." Like total downplays it. And I'm like, "Mom, what the heck? You should have told me, one. And two, we could have had some Benadryl, something to fix." She had some in her purse, of course, but scared the crap out of you.
That's great.
She knew it, and she still actively chose to
She
eat
knew it.
Yeah.
But her absolute favorite food of all is anything that's a berry. She loved berries. You could always find Mom out in the garden picking berries and strawberries and any kind of berry. She just loved them.
Did you guys
Mom and I got ourselves in some dangerous situations picking berries and having a bull sneak up on us in the pen because we weren't watching.
Oh, wow.
Berries were Mom's all-time favorite thing.
Did y'all do huckleberries?
Mm-hmm. Huckleberries, gooseberries, blueberries, everything that we could find.
What about you said dessert, Brent? What do you like for dessert, Collette?
A berry pie with ice cream.
There you go.
Oh,
Warm up the pie and put
berries.
the ice cream on there. Yeah,
Vanilla?
Very good.
I'm my mom's daughter. I love berry stuff.
Yeah. What did your dad like for dessert?
Popcorn, honestly.
Popcorn for
Popcorn.
dessert.
Yes, you're right. It was
Well, he loved
popcorn.
popcorn for anything.
Wow.
But he did. This is the other one that's kind of funny. He did love to go to the Maverick in Soda Springs and buy their little soft serve ice cream things. Like that was, if we worked in soda ever and we're going home from cement work, that was the thing. He'd stop and buy the soft serve ice cream, chocolate vanilla swirl. That was his go-to. So
There you go.
Yep. He used to come downstairs when we were little. Brent, I don't know if you remember him doing this, but he'd come down the stairs and we'd be watching TV or something and he'd yell, "Who speaks?" And half the time it was something really good. You say, "I speak," and if you're the first one, you get an ice cream or you get some treat. And the other half of the time it was, "Oh, cool, you get to come out and help me unload the cement forms." Or
It's like a grab bag. You just don't know.
you never knew. You never knew.
Oh,
So it's
wow.
like, do I, it was,
Wow.
but it was fun. It made some really funny times and good memories.
Now, he missed his opportunity to say "who screams" though, because then you can say "ice
Right?
cream."
yeah.
Missed it.
Yeah. Another thing that my dad liked late in life that you guys will get a kick out of, the easy way, at least the last few years he was around, they had biscuits and gravy at a gas station.
Oh,
Really?
Who doesn't love biscuits and gravy at a gas station? I
Yeah.
mean,
Basic
he's like,
gas station.
he'd want to go in town and get breakfast at the easy way, and I just couldn't quite get myself up for that.
How about that? Yeah.
So-
Yeah, he loved their biscuits and gravy.
so Grace is becoming really eclectic with their food choices. You can get biscuits and gravy at a gas station, and you can get soft serve ice cream at the plumbing store.
Oh,
Seriously, they have it at the plumbing store now?
You know, Wade Rigby owns what used to be Custom Heating.
The Hardys.
yeah.
Yeah.
They have a little drive-up window at the plumbing store. You can get really, really delicious soft serve ice cream there.
I am gonna try that the next time. I'm gonna go.
Oh
there.
my goodness.
Yep,
That's cool.
Do they have chocolate as well? Because that
I'm-
kind of.
I'm sure they do. When I was there, I got key lime pie ice cream. It was really good.
Oh my word.
Yeah,
That's
it was
crazy.
delicious.
Give Me Grace, a podcast by Alan and Nolan, will return after these brief messages. Now back to this episode of Give Me Grace, a podcast by Alan and Nolan.
What about what are your hobbies? And then we'll talk about your parents' hobbies.
Hobbies. Fishing for me. Fishing
good-
is one of my favorite things to do. Dad taught me when I was really little, and I just have always loved it. So fishing's one of my biggest ones.
Yeah. Where do you fish there? Like in a lake or a river or in the ocean?
I don't do lakes at all. I like active fishing, jumping across the rocks on a river and throwing upstream, and or in the Columbia in a boat fishing for salmon, or on the banks. Anything that keeps me busy and moving. I can't stand to just sit and wait very much. So there's sometimes when you're in a boat that it gets a little boring, but not much funner than catching a 25, 30-pound fish.
There you go.
It's awesome.
What about you, Brent?
You know, I enjoy fishing too. In fact, Colette and I and my 12-year-old are going out here in another week or two. I'm going out to Oregon. We're going to spend some time together and go catch some fish. So,
Yeah.
hobbies
Awesome.
here, honestly, following my kids around has been a hobby.
Mhm.
Do they do sports?
They did well. So my oldest did basketball and then swam. I was all about the basketball. By the time he was done, I was glad my younger ones don't, because it's hot and muggy.
Yeah.
Cool.
And
There
it's
was
a
a-
meet, so it's like track, but it's not
Oh,
outdoors. Yeah.
and
Or
hot and
wrestling. Yeah.
I sat behind a woman once and she had a shirt on that said, if I had one day left to live, I'd want to go to a swim meet because it would last forever. That makes sense.
I like that.
And
That's
then
hilarious.
my youngest son wants to play everything. So he's got junior high football this fall. He plays, now everybody, you play competitive sports and so they're traveling. So he does
Yeah.
baseball and basketball and just loves all of it. I love following that stuff. But you're going to laugh at me. I have turned into a cheer dad. Our daughter decided she was going to be a cheerleader, which I was a little perplexed. I had no idea where that came from.
Where'd that come from? Yeah.
She hadn't done tumbling and things growing up, and at least in the school here, you have to have quite a bit of tumbling to do cheerleading. And she started and went to work, and so she's a cheerleader. Unfortunately, I've been to lots of cheerleading competitions, and they're everything you can imagine.
Yeah.
It is a sport too, Brent.
It is. I'll
It
tell you
is.
what.
It is
So-
now for sure.
But you don't even know this. She ruptured and just tore her PCL, so she gets to have
Ooh.
surgery and is going to miss this year. But yeah,
Oh, she
Oh,
was waiting for
nasty.
results last time we talked.
yeah. So
Dang
Interesting.
it. Oh, I'm sorry.
They
No.
tell me that cheerleaders are the second most injured after football.
having
Yeah.
seen it for a little while, I believe it. So she was one of the flyers that they throw up and do all that stuff, but hurt herself doing some gymnastics and thought she was
Dang it.
fine. But yeah, we just found out the other day. Darn it.
Yeah, that's too bad.
What do you think your
That's
parents'
awful.
favorite hobbies were?
Cement
Sounds like
work.
fishing.
So
Well,
much for
I'm
that.
just thinking, being a nurse, being a coach and teacher, running a fish farm, doing cement work. I don't know. Well,
But
have
they had
time.
time for fun, I'm sure.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
When
know-
I was little, Mom used to grab you when you're walking through the house. She always had music on the weekends, always. And she would grab you and start dancing with you. She was quite a dancer.
Oh, that's
And
cool.
she'd grab you and jitterbug with you a little bit as you're going through the kitchen, trying to make things fun.
Yeah.
But
well,
I
they did-
remember that. I don't know if she did that when you were younger.
I tried to run faster than that. So.
Not to get caught.
They danced even Collette, when I was in high school. They would come when Dad would have to chaperone a dance.
Yep.
They would
He
go out
would
and
come
dance.
and they would dance, like really dance.
They
not-
were
that's-
amazing.
I think I remember that.
Oh yeah,
I
they
think
Yeah.
I remember them out there cutting
There
a
were
rug.
several years they taught the floor show for like the church dances, and where you
Oh,
had
okay.
to have a show, and they did that
Yeah.
for a lot of years.
Okay.
They were really, really good.
What kind of dancing was it though? Just
Jitterbug, swing,
Mhm.
they could do almost any waltz or
Oh, yeah. And moved way. I couldn't believe my mom could move. Like,
Yeah.
when she started dancing, you're like, whoa, where'd that come from?
yeah. Mom was a heck of an athlete just in dance, and she could still move really well when she put weight on. And yeah,
Huh.
Mom
Yeah.
touched a lot of lives by giving shots.
That's true.
Nobody could give a shot that didn't hurt the way my mom did. She'd keep you distracted and get it in and out before you even felt anything. And
You're like, oh, you're done?
yeah, literally, yeah, it's pretty amazing.
That dancing is kind of a segue into what our other favorite thing that we ask everybody about is music. What did your parents like for music? And then we'll ask what you guys listen to for music.
Apparently, my dad liked Whitney Houston and sing it at
Yeah, I mean,
Oh my gosh.
That's a good
I
That
one.
remember listening to
that
the
would be one.
Letterman when I was little. They had the Letterman
Letterman.
playing a lot of times.
Uh-huh.
But as I got to be a teenager,
hmm
Mom listened to whatever we listened to
Yeah.
and enjoyed it. And I always thought she was the cool mom because she'd pull up to drop us up somewhere and she's playing the cool music that all my friends liked.
You remember
I
Brent?
don't remember Dad.
He didn't really have something. We talked about it because it's kind of funny. Music's kind of. I was never a musician. Mr. Shaw, I played the tuba. I think I played the tuba because I was the biggest kid that could hold the tuba. in sixth grade. I wanted to play the drums. And play
Just
the
by
tuba.
default.
Yeah,
Tuba.
he can hold it.
Tuba.
There you go. And man, I hated it. I absolutely hated it. The funny part of that is it broke in eighth grade while we were playing at a JV basketball game. Unfortunately, I was on the other side of the gym when it broke, so it was obviously not my fault. Somebody knocked it off the bleachers, and that was the end of my music career.
Did you pay them to do that, Brent?
Yeah, really.
I don't
It was
have
a hit
any
job.
knowledge of who it was or how it happened,
I'm not sure I believe that.
That's
but I would
awesome.
stay in the gym. I loved to play ball. I loved sports. That was my thing. So I'd go down, I'd stay after school and shoot. And Mr. Shaw would walk through the gym and grab me and make me go up and practice the tuba.
Yep.
But the funny part is, after my brother passed in 2018, and after he passed, music's kind of therapy for me, And I remember talking to my dad a lot about it. Like, what do you like? What do you like? And he honestly didn't have one thing. He's like, I know if I like it, I like it, and I don't. And so,
But he couldn't name anything. He
no, he know words. Like oh yeah, I know this song.
Yeah.
But
So
boy could he sing.
What music gives you that peace that you need when you're having a struggle?
honestly, anything. It's funny. My brother is a big Weezer fan.
Okay.
I'm going to Weezer here in October. I went and saw them last summer. So anything from Weezer to country music to just anything. I listen to a lot of music.
So like your dad, but you know who they are.
Yeah, a little more. My son, who's on a mission right now, that's one of been the hardest things for him is he really knows music, knows a lot of it. He's like, man, I'm tired of listening to church music. It's only been
But in Brazil, he'll hear music
oh yeah.
Yeah.
in the city,
Sure.
just out in the streets and stuff. He'll hear it.
He's already said, thank goodness for like the youth music in Brazil because it's got different sounds and different.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
little.
They can listen to some of that. But yeah, my dad, he liked music. He'd like to sing. He actually liked to sing, and
Mhm.
that. But he did like to sing and was pretty talented at it. But he never had like just this is music. This is what I like.
Mhm.
Listen to anything on the work site. Growing up, we always had classic rock because it was the only thing that everybody could listen to.
Oh yeah.
So
Sure.
a lot of classic rock.
ARSP.
No
I
problem.
forgot about them.
Yeah. What about you, Collette?
I listened to just about everything. I had stopped listening to country for a long time until Brent, this is your fault. We went to Alaska and went fishing up there, and he played some songs for me from newer artists, and I just loved it. So I really enjoy country
back.
again.
There you go.
I quit back when Garth Brooks was right after he kind of slowed down singing. I really liked him, but some of the best ones that I like, I'm anything that Pink does, I'm a huge fan of. I grew up with her.
Yeah.
So she's really a big one for me. And of course I love Celine Dion. I can't believe she can't sing now hardly at all. She's
Yeah.
so tragic to have something like that happen to a voice like that. And
Right.
who else? Sarah McLachlan, all those kind of people. But I
90s.
listen to just about anything but acid rock. I don't get into that.
Right.
So
Good. All right. Corky, you want to take the next section?
Sure. Sure, that's fine. So the next one is just to talk about sort of being in Grace, and I think we're gonna talk about elementary school. I think both of you probably attend elementary school in Grace then, or Grace or Thatcher, right?
both for me.
Okay.
Oh, you went to
Thatcher and Grace? Thatcher
Yeah.
and Grace?
When I was halfway through first grade, we moved over to Grace, and I had to go to Thatcher because there wasn't enough room or something.
Yeah.
Oh.
So
Okay.
I spent my second half of first grade in Thatcher,
Oh, okay.
and I saw your episodes about them selling that, and interesting
Yes.
that that's going
Yeah.
on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Weird. Yeah.
I don't remember who my teacher was at Thatcher, but I remember I'm dyslexic and I was so far behind in reading that she had me stay in every recess to read, which I couldn't do.
Oh.
So that was rough. But my favorite
Yeah.
memory of Thatcher is about Brent. Mom always got really sick when she was pregnant, and she was pregnant with Brent, sicker than a dog, just really struggling. And I remember being at the gym, and Jeff and Rick were there, and we kept meeting in the middle of the floor. Did you hear anything yet? Did you hear if Mom had the baby yet? It was all about Brent because he was coming, and
Yeah.
it was pretty fun. So
like
thanks for
that.
that memory, Brent, because of you. I had a
Awesome.
positive from that.
I don't remember that.
Yeah.
No,
Awesome.
probably not.
Dang.
But I
What
missed the big swing that was down there. Not the swing, the steep slide. That was
Yes.
awesome. I loved that thing. It's
Yeah.
really cool.
Yeah.
That your playground was something else.
Yeah. That's probably in the Museum of Playground Equipment that can't exist anymore.
Yeah, never do again.
Yeah. What about you, Brent? Did you go to Grace the whole time?
You know, I did, except some of the years we were in Utah.
Okay.
Well,
Oh,
I was in-
okay. Okay.
yeah,
When you're in
I
grade
had-
school. Oh, okay.
I had Mrs. Hanson for first grade. I had Mrs. Staley for second grade. I thought she was still one of my favorite teachers. I don't know if she knows that. She still lives in Grace, I'm pretty sure. And Mrs. Toon for third
Oh,
for
yeah.
half the year, and then moved to Utah, and then came back for Mr. Lloyd in sixth grade.
Oh, okay. Okay. Those 2.5 years or 3.5. Very good. Okay. I had,
I had Mrs. Ray in second grade.
Mhm.
Was she still around with you guys?
sounds
Ray,
familiar.
One of the kids
Mrs. Ray.
talked about
She's really,
Ray.
really short, tiny girl,
Yeah,
tiny
I re-
lady, but she's
I
really
remember.
cool.
Yeah, I think I remember her.
And then
did you-
Mrs. Wilker in fourth grade up on the upstairs room.
Yeah, that's what I had.
Yes.
Too. Yeah.
We were in that room when they had that earthquake there that kind of
Oh.
cracked the ceiling.
Oh, yeah.
That was interesting.
Yeah. Okay. Very good. So, Brent, did you say who was your sixth grade?
Mr. Lloyd.
Mr. Lloyd. I don't know. I don't remember who
Greg-
that
I don't
is.
think that would be.
Remember his first name? I don't remember
Greg.
Mr. Lloyd. Greg?
Greg Lloyd, I think.
Greg
Low?
Low.
Low.
Oh, okay. I was
Coach
wondering if it was
Low.
him because he was my
Greg
sixth
Low,
grade
yeah.
teacher too. Okay, Greg Low. Coach Low.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right.
Yeah. Okay.
Low.
Yep.
Very good.
So I
Okay.
missed Mrs. Wilker because I missed fourth grade.
Oh yeah, you missed
And,
being in the upstairs room.
Yes, I did. Which I thought that was the coolest room in that school. That was awesome.
You feel so
It was.
old. It's like, oh,
You
we go
really do.
upstairs. Oh, all you people stay down here. Yeah, it was interesting.
And we have our own exit up there.
Yeah, yeah. It's like being in our own world. Yeah, yeah.
And my favorite thing about that school was the low baskets, the short baskets.
Yes, the ones on the side.
You could dunk back and forth.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah, that was
Oh,
so much fun. Yeah,
Oh.
that was a lot of fun. Yeah, very good. What about favorite teachers in junior high and high school?
junior high for me, hands down, was Dad.
Yep.
Absolutely Dad. And then Mr. Washburn. I really like Mr. Washburn.
Yeah,
He could, watching him get frustrated with the kid and do this little shoulder
shoulder
roll
roll.
thing.
yeah,
Oh my gosh, I loved when he did that.
Yeah.
It's so funny. But
yeah.
he really loved kids too, and
Yeah.
really cared about you. And
yeah.
he was
That-
fun. It was really
That
funny.
shoulder roll was like a warning sign. It's like, okay,
Yes.
back off.
Yes.
He's-
Okay, time to chill.
He's warm. I don't know. That was so fun.
Like he's getting ready to.
Yeah,
you out
he's
the
like,
door.
I'm warming up my paddle arm now. Yeah, so funny. Yeah. What
Oh, my goodness.
what about you, Brent?
Mr. Wilker.
I love Mr. Wilker too.
I
Yeah,
thought
I
he
worked
was
for him
great.
too.
I loved him. He was great. Yeah, he was great. I liked math. I hated English. And it's funny because I thought Mrs. Gummersall and Mrs. Lloyd were super hard nosed. It was just because I didn't like the class. But those two women, they did amazing things. Like, I mean, I hated English, but I made it through law school. And a lot of that has to go back to things they taught early on. Quite frankly. Just really good people. There's so many good people.
Yeah.
Do you remember, was Mike Hansen there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He
was
was
your
his
basketball
first
coach.
year was my senior year. He was my basketball coach.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was a guy that I really liked. I played basketball for him as a freshman and sophomore. And then
Okay.
he moved and went to Preston, and
Yeah.
we left as well.
Yeah.
but man, he was a good guy, just a
Yeah.
good, and he cared about the education. And I remember him telling me once, we were talking, he said, if I wasn't a teacher first, then I shouldn't be a coach.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, that's good. There are too many that are the other way. There are coaches,
Absolutely.
but not
Yeah.
teachers in bigger high schools.
Yeah, and
Especially,
he
I
was
think.
definitely, he was a teacher first. Yeah, I took a keyboarding class. How funny is
Yep.
that?
I did too.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's probably the best class I ever took in high school. I mean, by the time I was in law school, everything was on a computer. You can type,
Yeah.
and
That's right. Yeah, we were well prepared for that. Did you have, by the time you came up, had they gotten rid of the manual typewriters?
yeah, they were
still there?
gone. They were
Okay,
gone.
so we had to run to class
Good.
so we didn't get stuck on a manual.
Yeah, we had typing with Mrs. Harris,
Yeah.
and
It's
then
like,
we had keyboarding with Coach Hansen.
yeah, and I would get docked. I was like, Coach, my fingers aren't strong enough for this manual typewriter. I don't know what to do. I'm stepping on it and won't
Yeah.
go.
Oh yeah.
Oh, Brent, will you do this for me?
Yeah.
Will you say, Coach Hansen, we need to schedule to get you on the show because we're trying to get him.
Yeah.
Coach Hansen, you get on the show and I will come watch, and I will love that. That would mean the world to me because I don't think he knows how much he meant to me, you know.
Good.
And it was funny because I ended up going to a different school my junior and senior year.
Yeah.
And I remember talking to Coach Hansen about the fact that that was going to happen. And what a good human being. Like he's like, I get it. You know, he understood. And also, yeah, he was down to Preston. And I remember talking to him while I was there. You know, he's an incredible human being, and he should be on the show. And you tell him lots of people would love to see him on the show.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think, you know, teachers generally are pretty humble and don't realize what a lasting impact they have. I think
That's true.
You know another one, Ray Umauchi. I liked Matt.
Yeah. Yep.
I liked his class, and he. I don't know what it was. I could not remember to write my name on my paper to save my life, but I write like a 3-year-old still. So he always knew it was me, and I always got docked points. So this is the funny things you remember.
Yeah.
Yep.
Awesome. What are some things from your time in Grace that you think about regularly?
The sense of community when people, you know, when somebody's struggling with something or something happens, just how tight that community, even people don't normally, they'll wave at you, but you don't really talk.
Mhm.
How much everybody just comes and brings food or helps with something on the farm or your land, or they do stuff to help you. And it's just amazing to me that, and they still do from what I've heard. They still are that way. And it's just really cool. It makes me want to move back there. I would like to retire there.
That is not something everyone says. Some people do,
Yeah.
though. Yeah.
I
There's
know a house
not
you
a lot
can-
there for me to do now, but to fish in the backyard there. But
Yeah.
Dana and I are talking about wanting to go back there and just hibernate there.
Nice.
There you go.
That's a good place to do it. Yeah. Get away.
Yeah. And it's close to a lot of hot springs. Go soak in those hot pots.
Yeah.
All my old
Yes.
bones.
Yeah. Nolan's talked about this. We didn't realize that was a draw from the whole region, that people knew Lava Hot Springs from everywhere,
Yep.
you
Yep.
know, a couple states away.
Mhm.
I met
Yeah.
somebody last week that had driven across Idaho years ago, and they stopped there and they were taking pictures of the farm as they went across our valley. And she remembered it and said, I've always wanted to go back there and find a house. And it was really interesting that somebody would remember that. And
Yeah.
just from driving across the state, it's pretty
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. The flume and the hot pots kind of bring people to that area.
What about you, Brent? What's something that you think about?
Yeah, just there's such good people there. So I graduated in '94, but I graduated from Malad High School.
Mhm. I thought I remembered that. Yeah, I have a story about that actually.
Yeah, I graduated from Malad High School. Some of my best friends are still those guys in Grace, and that '94 class, I get invited to their class reunions
Oh, awesome.
and all
Yeah.
sorts of, and stay in touch with those guys. And you know, even though I went to a different school, we were friends still. It wasn't this animosity that you would think
Yeah. Yeah.
It was cool. Your brothers, I feel that way about, Court. Yeah,
Yeah.
Lane and Chris.
Yeah.
And it's funny. Grace has always. It's been that way for my family for a long time. When the family moved away, when my grandfather died and went to Utah, I think one of the reasons they came back to Grace was my brother Jeff got married and they did a reception there because that's really where he'd left. That's where he knew people.
Yeah.
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 And the community came out and was so wonderful. And my parents, they missed that. They missed that community and wanted to be back and wanted to be a part of it. And then when I left, I mean, that was kind of a weird thing for those couple of years. And I remember, we actually came to Grace my first year that I was in the lad, managed to lose somehow. It
Yeah,
really
I don't know how that happened.
we lost in football. And I remember, and again, I won't name names, but somebody came and said something. There were emotions, and it was a parent came in and said something, and I was a junior in high school, and I said something back that I probably shouldn't have, and then I stopped and I said, "You know what? I am sorry." And the person said, "You know what? I'm sorry too." Right there, gave me a hug. Like we weren't really close, but it was a parent of another kid.
Yeah.
That was Grace. And then when I went and played basketball there the first time, they cheered for me. They didn't boo me when I got announced and went on the floor. It was still
Yeah.
That's neat.
people still
That
cared.
is good. That is cool. Yeah.
That's
cool.
not a normal thing. I think.
Yeah. So I don't know if it was your junior or senior year, probably your senior year. You were in the state tournament in basketball and you played a consolation game against Wendell. Is that right?
No.
No? Oh,
No.
okay.
My junior, we played in the state championship both years that I was there.
State championship. Okay.
Yeah.
Who'd you
And
play against? Did you play against Wendell?
we didn't play against Wendell and
Weird.
Nate
Okay.
Kelsey, Alan
Yeah.
Kelsey. I mean, they
Yeah.
coached Grace, right?
Yeah.
And he was a good friend of mine. And so
Okay. Yeah, I
we
figured
would
you're
go to
around the
them.
same age. Yeah.
We played in a kind of a state all-star team together.
Oh, okay.
We were best friends in the 6th grade because we both
Okay.
moved back to Grace in the 6th grade. Our dads were the coaches of the football and basketball team.
That's
So
right.
we were
Yeah.
best friends then. Alan Kelsey, I just saw him a couple years ago speaking at a funeral for a guy here in Fort Collins who was his kind of best friend through
Oh,
life.
wow.
And he still, we asked about my parents and asked about all those.
Yeah. That's awesome. We're going to try to get him on too.
He'd be great. He's a phenomenal individual.
Yeah, he's a great guy.
But yeah, my junior year, we lost the state championship. I thought that's what you were going to say. I missed a shot at the buzzer. We lost 52
okay.
52 to 53 or 55
Okay.
to 53.
Yeah.
And I missed the shot that I still see it bouncing around the rim.
Yeah. Those are the most vivid ones. I have a few of those too. Yeah.
Me too. They suck.
Yeah. The Idaho State Journal, and my mother did this to me. The Idaho State Journal put a front page color, and back then that was a big deal. It was a big picture, and it has me sitting there, kind of looking away as the other team's getting the medals, and that's
Yes.
the picture.
Wow. That's
I
some
went into
hard-hitting
our-
journalism for the Idaho State Journal.
At the time, I went into to her office. She was still in Soda Springs. They drove to Soda Springs from Malad
That's
So-
crazy.
so that I could continue
Yeah.
playing sports and stuff because it wasn't going to happen at Grace, right?
Yeah.
And they drove back and forth, and I went into her office, and she had that darn picture framed on the wall. I was like, "Oh, geez, that's horrible." And she said, "Well, no, you guys are going to win it next year." She had another empty frame, and she's like, "This is where that picture's going to go."
Oh, wow. That's cool.
And it did, and it was kind of cool. But yeah, that was she would drive us to those type of things, and it wasn't just my dad that was like, "Get to work." And
How about that? That's awesome dedication.
Mom and
That's-
Dad both did a lot to make sure all of us got to do what sports we wanted and experience things and do things that not everybody got to do. They both really busted their tails to make sure to support us and get us to where we wanted to go and try things. So pretty
Yeah.
cool.
That is
they
awesome.
never missed things. I can't imagine.
No,
It didn't
even when I was playing in college, they didn't miss.
Yeah.
Hardly. I remember you and Alan and David showing up with Mom at games at Rick's.
We were at
and-
Rick's College a lot.
Wow.
Yeah.
I grew up watching Collette when we were in Utah. And I remember when we moved back to Grace, she'd finished. I went to my first boys basketball game I could remember in forever. I just thought it was girls that played because we followed the time.
That's awesome.
But my parents never missed things. It didn't matter. We'd play in Jerome
No.
or we'd play, all over the half across the state, and they'd be there, and it's
Wow.
amazing.
Every time. Pretty cool.
Very good. So, what do you say, Nolan? We skip to our section 5. Does that sound okay?
Yeah, I think he did kind of already. I think they maybe,
Yeah.
Maybe let's get one story real quick about a classmate of yours from Grace, and then we'll move to the section 5. Brent, do you have a story about a classmate of yours that's from Grace?
Classmate with Grace.
And to get somebody in trouble. You did you got yourself in trouble with the earring story, but anybody else you can throw under the bus?
Oh yeah, I've got buddies, and I've got stuff that will go to the grave too. But I got my rights read to me once there at the house. That I don't remember which cop it was, but they came and read my rights to me, and it was something about signs that had gone missing.
Oh.
And a couple of my buddies and I had done stuff like this and had done silly stuff with mailboxes and
garbage cans,
Drano bombs and garbage cans. Yeah, different silly stuff. And he starts talking about the signs, and of course my dad would have been the worst attorney, because I remember he was pissed when they came and read my rights. He was pissed, and they read my rights, and he's like, "You better talk." That was the worst.
That makes you shut up faster than anything.
I'm learning a lot about Brent tonight.
Yeah.
There was a lot of mischief. It was probably good that I moved to Milan, because it got me out of a lot of trouble that I'm heading down some of those paths. Just mischief trouble, not real trouble, but mischief.
Yeah. Just because we were bored. Someone else brought that up. Like, their kids are like, "Why did you guys do things like that?" And they're like, "Because there was nothing else to do."
Yeah, what else are you going to do? Yeah.
And I won't tell on who the guys were, but I remember being so relieved when he started describing where the signs had come from. I'm like, wait a second. No, that's not me.
We stole other signs.
It was exactly that. But one of the things that I do remember, one of the funny things is in junior high, Marlo and Dwayne Mickelson.
Okay.
And Marlo's a good friend of mine. Dwayne's a good friend of mine. They caught a live rock chuck. And at the time, they were building the gym, the junior high gym. So it used to be that L shape, but they were building it out. And it was a hollow shell. And they let that rock chuck go out in that gym. And we're sitting in Mrs. Lloyd's class, and it starts chirping and just echoing so loud. Like one of those things. Marlo has lots of mischief that I won't tell on him. He's still living there. But that was a little fun one that we had together, and so
that's a good one. Did they catch the rock chuck?
They did, and they also caught us screwing around back there. I remember Mrs. Lloyd. I was tall. I was like 6 foot tall in the 8th grade, and Mrs. Lloyd, she caught us back in there. We weren't supposed to be there, and I remember her walking me back to the office. And it's funny because she comes about to my waist, and I was so scared of that woman. I was in trouble.
Scared of her, and I was scared of your dad. So
there you go.
Collette, what about you? Anybody you want a class of 87 people that you can tell us something that maybe we didn't know?
I moved out of there when I was a sophomore, halfway through sophomore year. And that's when everybody starts kind of tends to try to start getting crazy with stuff. But I was too scared of getting into trouble and not being able to play ball.
Mm-hmm. So you kept your nose clean.
That was the only way I was going to get to college, was playing ball. So I never went and shot the flume because I didn't want to risk, because I'm not a great swimmer.
Yeah.
Now I wish I had, but maybe I'll go back and do it now.
There you go.
But I remember Sean, Dad talking about Sean and how he said, "I love that kid. He knows how to work. He really gets in and does it without having to be encouraged."
Mm-hmm.
And I remember being so proud that I knew him. I knew that kid that Dad thought was awesome.
Yeah. I appreciate you sharing that.
Sean was always loved by everybody. He he was just his own person and kind to everybody. Just really one of the good ones.
Good. I appreciate
Really
it.
good one.
His
Yeah.
kids love to hear stories about him, so I'll make sure
Yeah.
that they see this.
I've lost contact with most of my classmates for the most part because I've been out of there before we graduated and then never really went back except for funerals and things. So I do stay in contact with Connie Jo Miller.
Mm-hmm.
She remembers everything, but I've got like 2-second memory on a good day and a half a second on a bad day.
Well,
I don't remember a lot of things, but
I have this great idea. Why don't you get someone to start a YouTube video show where you interview all your
Yeah. Class of 1987. And start a franchise.
it's really cool that you guys are doing this. It's really awesome.
Yeah, it's fun. All right. Your turn,
Oh.
Corky.
All right. So let's go to some introspective questions, and we'll also turn to your parents. The question is, what's something that we might not know about you? About you, Brent? Anything come to mind?
Oh, there's a lot, and it's going to probably stay that
Oh,
way.
you're just picking. Okay, fair enough.
I think the earring, maybe we didn't know about
The
that.
earring thing that you had a short stint with a magnetic earring. Yeah, that's a good
I
one.
guess. No,
Yeah.
I don't know. There's nothing that interesting.
He told us about the sign. He did kind of already.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
sign
the
and the
thing.
mailboxes and the silly, this is a kind of a funny story. Do you guys remember from Soda Springs? He had to be about your age, Chad Hansen from Soda Springs.
Yeah. Yeah. I played baseball with Chad Hansen.
Yeah.
Yeah. His dad was a representative in the legislature.
Yep.
Dennis. Yeah.
So this is kind of a funny story. As an attorney, years ago, I was in Orlando at a conference, and I went to law school, and then I went to the University of Florida and did a master's in tax law. That boring. But I went to this conference with probably 5,000 people there. And I'm sitting in the back because I'm running out taking calls and going back in and taking calls and going back in. And I sit down, and the guy next to me has a Florida Gators screen cover on his phone. And so I said, "Go Gators," the stuff you do when you're from there. We start talking, and he tells me he's from Ohio. I tell him I'm from Colorado. And then he says, "I drove through Colorado on my way to Utah." And I ask questions at that because you're from Utah. He goes, "Well, my wife's from Utah. I'm actually from Idaho." I said, "Well, I'm from Idaho. Where are you from?" Soda Springs.
No way.
And Grace. And we start putting this thing together and where we're at. I'm like, "Wait a second. Did you have a younger brother?" And he said, "Yeah." And I said, "I think me and my friends got in a fight with him and his friends in the Soda Springs." And he texts this younger brother, and he's like, "Do you know Brent Keele?" He's like, "Yeah, he's an a-hole." I mean, it was kind of that funny thing. And Chad Hansen and I are now friends. Like, we message each other. I went to a Bengals game. He got us tickets to a Bengals game when I was in Ohio. Like, just kind of funny things, like that.
Yeah,
Those
that's awesome.
communities and the way things pull back together. And but yeah, of all places in Orlando, Florida, at a conference, to run into a guy from Soda Springs. I think he actually served his mission in the same place Collette did in Sweden. So,
okay. How about that? That's awesome. What a great story. Yeah, he was a couple of years older than me, I think.
Yeah, he said he remembered playing against like Charlie Panner and
Okay.
Yeah, that would have been a year older. Yeah. Yeah, we went up to Soda Springs to play Pony League Baseball, Dave Shaw and I.
Oh,
Played
cool.
with him. Yep. Awesome. What about you, Collette? What's something we might not know about you?
Nothing that I can really think of. I mean,
she's told us some things.
Yeah, we have some things. You're a grandma. That's cool.
Yes.
Yeah.
Then I have 5 cats. Nobody seems to know that, but it's also good that they don't know
That means you have a lot of cat litter too.
Yeah.
Yeah, we only have 1, but it works. So, yeah.
What about you've said a couple of things about your mom. What's something else that we might not know about her? We wouldn't have known the dancing unless we remembered her chaperoning the dances.
When she was in her teens, she traveled around and danced, tap danced at all the state fairs all over the country, or all over the West anyway.
Wow.
She was really quite a dancer.
That's cool.
And the one sport she could always beat Dad in, she was so proud of, was badminton. She'd kick his butt in it every time.
Is that right? Badminton.
Yeah.
Yeah. Something about the slower moving.
I know.
Bird.
He
was probably nimble. Maybe he wasn't quite as nimble.
Yeah. Yeah,
That may be
maybe
it.
that. How about
He
that?
didn't-
She
do
she
much
would
with
slam
finesse.
some really intense
He
shots
didn't
at
do
him,
much
and
with
he,
finesse. That's true. He should have tried
Yeah.
his paddle from his junior high class. Maybe that would have.
Would have got
Awesome.
stuck in the holes.
I don't remember him ever using that paddle, but
No,
No,
it was
it's-
good intimidation though.
It's
Yes,
like the
he used to
sign,
use that quarter.
cameras in use. You don't have to have cameras.
Well,
yeah,
this is a
especially with
secret.
those holes in it.
A lot of
He
those
used to
guys.
use a game with a quarter, and he'd have people. You draw a circle on a piece of paper. I hope he did this to one of you guys.
Oh yeah, he did it to me. I remember
And he
this.
would draw.
I was so
like
embarrassed.
Put your nose on the
so
quarter.
awesome, though. No,
Yeah.
you draw. You put a quarter on your nose, and it rolls
Oh,
down. And if
yes.
it lands, then you draw a circle around it with a black marker.
Right.
And then you go again, and you go again, not knowing you're getting that line down your nose.
Yes.
He did that to so many kids, and he would just laugh. And
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he got me with that.
Dad was
Yeah.
quite a prankster.
Yeah. What were you
Mom
going
was
to say,
too in
Brent?
different ways, but yeah.
Yeah,
Brent was going to say something.
about the paddles, I think.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
about the paddles. Those guys, most of them bluffed. I mean, I can tell you several times, Mr. Hook, Mr. Pearson.
Yes.
There were
Yeah.
probably Mr. Washburn too. I got credit for being paddled by those guys, but we went out in the hall and they slapped the bottom of their shoe and said, "If you don't act this up, I'm gonna
Get her for real. Brought you into their circle.
I wonder
That's
what-
awesome.
I wonder at what year they were no longer allowed to even have a paddle in their classroom.
know." It's
Yeah.
amazing that when I was in high school, they still had them there, and sometimes
Yeah.
it did happen, but it's just only in rural Idaho, I guess.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Oh, something you guys don't know about me is I got caught cheating one time in junior high in Dad's class.
Oh. That's an awkward.
It
That might be
was-
worse than the puberty talk with mom. That right.
It
home.
was really awkward, but
Oh,
he just
man.
came up and he grabbed the, because I can't read very well. I'm really,
Yeah.
really slow. And so I had written some notes and he saw me using it and he came over and he just picked it up and wadded it up and put it in his front pocket and
How
just
about
stared
that?
at me for a second. And I started to cry. I'm like, oh my gosh, he's going to hate me for forever. And he just
Wow.
walked away. Never talked about it again. But I didn't cheat again.
That's the idea. Yeah. Similar to the
Such a
smoking
lesson.
story. That's the whole goal is
Yeah.
not do it again.
He used
Yeah.
to say, don't ever corner a wild animal or a scared kid.
That's a
I
good.
mean, teaching and sports, that's a pretty important one.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
All right. When was the last time each of you were in Grace? Was it last May, maybe?
For me, it was at Dad's funeral.
Yeah.
I've been there quite a bit since then. We've got a friend that's living in the house now, but did a lot of work and stuff there on the house.
Oh, okay.
And my wife's from Rigby, so we go back through.
Oh, okay.
Then
Yeah, that's easy to go through. That's easy
Yeah.
to go through when you're with Rigby. Go back roads.
yeah,
It's a
so we
nice
go
drive
through
even.
that, and
Yeah.
I have buddies there that'll still send texts and different things and check on the house. That was another thing about Grace. When my
Mhm.
parents were older and they were living there and their health was deteriorating and things like that. I mean, Brian Jurgensen lives out there by them now. My mom had gotten in a car accident and I knew she was in an accident before probably the police, before because Brian pulled up on it and texted me.
Oh, wow.
And that she's going to need some help. You need to get your dad here and different things. Like he sent me a message.
She broke her back in that wreck.
Yeah.
How about that?
But
She
and
was on her way to pick me up at the airport.
So it was your fault, huh?
Yep, totally. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
Brent. I interrupted you. Go
I
ahead.
was just say people really took care of them then. And it's hard when your parents are aging. And, after she passed, my dad, he lived with me. He probably lived with us for about 18 months over the next 3 years. About half the time he was here with us in Colorado through COVID, through that kind of stuff. But then he'd want to go home because that was home.
Mm-hmm.
And the people there took such good care of him. And I would hear from them or different things. And, Marlo Mickelson, he'd never ask for anything. He'd never tell us what was going on. And my dad says, I was going out the back of the house, it's just hard to leave. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, well, there's nothing. There's a little snow. I'm like, I have to ask questions because he'd never asked for help as an older guy.
Yeah.
And the snow would come off the front of the house and piled up and iced up, and he was just not in shape to be able to deal with it. So he'd park outside and go around, and the neighbors out there are wonderful. They'd clear the driveway for him, but didn't realize this had happened. And man, you feel like a heel when your parents are out in the middle of nowhere and you can't help them and you're hours away. And I called Marlon and said, "Hey, can I pay one of your boys, somebody to go help him?" He's like, "You cannot pay us, but we'll be over there." And they spent hours digging, like it had iced over, just out there taking care of him, digging him out. And other people, they'd go by and they'd visit and they would check on him, and I would get texts. And people are amazing there. They really are amazing. And I will forever have a soft spot in my heart for Grace and for the people because of how they took care of my parents when they were aging.
That's awesome. That's awesome. That probably leads to this next question. What does it mean with the passage of time, having spent time in Grace?
Well, I guess for me, I didn't understand why mom and dad would live somewhere so small. It didn't make sense to me.
Mm.
Now it does. Now it
Good place
does.
to raise a family, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I want to go back now.
Yeah.
Universe, you win. Yeah.
Well, I know where there's a house there, Collette. So.
Yeah, Dana and I were going to talk to you about that.
They say that there aren't many houses available there. It's really hard to find a place to live there. Right
Yeah.
Now. Yeah. So yeah, that I actually have people reach out sometimes, and we have my mom's best friend lives there now.
She used to babysit me when I was a baby.
Who was that?
Lana, used to be Whale, but
Myers.
So someone that
Lana Myers.
She was from Soda Springs, but she lives.
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
And the neighbors, Krebs out there, take care of her just like they took care of my dad. Like they would follow up. Just such good people, and people that I didn't even grow up with. There's still good people there.
Yeah.
Very good. Is there anything from your time growing up that you do differently?
I would stay in touch with classmates when I moved out.
That's why we're doing this for a lot of reasons. I mean, one of the reasons is that we've lost touch. Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, you had a good class. Karen Shaw and Sean, Buffy,
Connie, and
Booker, and
Caroline, and so many good people. Yeah, it was a really good class.
Yeah. What about
even
you,
better when I left?
Not in basketball, I'll tell you that much.
Thank you. That was nice of you to say.
That I would do differently with Grace. I don't know that there is. I guess some of the things that you worry about and you think are important, and they're just not. And your little rivalries with classmates, and those things are ridiculous. Like there is nothing that I find more joy in than watching people from Grace succeed at whatever it is. It's the coolest thing. I cheer for him still. Kyle Christensen's there now coaching the girls basketball team and the golf.
That's right. Yeah.
They've had a lot of success. And
he was your age, right? Your
he
class.
Was a year older. He was a year older.
Oh, was he? He was Lane's. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And just a good guy, and it's fun to see them have success. And I'll shoot him a note. I'm like, man, that's so cool. I still watch and see how Grace is doing in whatever sport.
I do that. I do that too. I'll look them up. Try to find out.
I still do. I find out which kids are doing well.
Yeah. Isn't that funny? You recognize so many of the names and the kids and the families.
Yeah.
And
it's fun.
Well, I have a regret that has to do with Coach Keele, actually. So you mentioned that I placed in the state 800 when I was a senior, but it was 6th place. It's like the last place that they call placing.
I remember
it's still a place.
I remember it. And I thought it was super cool.
But it was the race of my life. But had I listened to your dad, it would have been better. So this is what happened. Before the race, but when they send you away from the coaches and you're just with the other runners, you know, and that last few minutes before the race to do warm-ups and then go down in the track. And as I was going through, he said, okay, listen, you don't know who these runners are, but I guarantee you somebody's going to make a break in the last 200. And I want you to, and he always talked about this, I want you to tie a string, and then try to beat that runner in the last 100. You got to tie a string. He's like, see if you can get a sense of it beforehand, but then you tie your string. So I'm talking to these kids, and this one little freshman kid says, oh, this kid's going to win state. He's going to win it right here. And he was a freshman. I was like, he's not going to win it. And 200, we're 600 in, got 200 left. That kid, that freshman who was predicted by the other freshman to win, comes zooming past me. And I think in my mind, I got to tie a string to him. And I didn't do it. I didn't chase him. And if I would have chased him, I think I would have got second or third. So I don't think I'd have caught him, but I think I'd have done better. So I didn't listen to your dad. That's what happened. Yeah.
You didn't listen to your dad.
I didn't listen to Coach Keele, and it cost me probably a full second in my last race. Yeah.
I remember him being super excited that you were on the podium, though. I remember that. I remember that.
Well, he was very gracious with me. He did a lot for me there, and really, you know, I took those lessons from those last 2 or 3 meets in spring track into college, into the rest of my life. I did. I took what I learned, what he taught me about myself. I took it into my life, and I think that's why he did it. You know, that's what he
That's
got joy
the
from.
better place to listen.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
He cared about people about that. Yeah, he did. He loved success. He loved when other people had success, and he loved to celebrate it.
yeah, he did.
You know, the last thing that I would probably say about my dad, the lesson he taught me the most, he taught me a lot about sports, and that we loved that. We did that together. You know, he was kind of my own private coach when he wasn't my coach. You know,
Yeah.
But the thing that he taught me the most was after I'd graduated from high school and we were working together. And when you work and you do construction, sometimes things don't go the way you intend. And that summer, and when you're 18, you've got an attitude, right? Like you're arrogant, you're cocky.
You know
Not
better than
you,
your
Brent.
dad.
You never had attitude.
My dad, he was sometimes hard to work for and work with. And I don't remember what it was. We lost a tape measure, lost a hammer, lost tools. We always lost tools. He was not organized, terrible at organization, not his strength. You know, and he was upset and ranting and raving about it. And you kids lost this again. And I'm like, we didn't lose it. And he's yelling. And I'm like, I'm going to go out and find it in your truck. And it's going to be there. And I went out and found it and I brought it and I went right up to him. I'm like, here it is. And like, we went back and forth and voices were raised and things were said, you know, and I said something finally to him that I shouldn't. And I turned and walked around and he goes, "You're fired." And I was like, well, he's firing. Like he didn't ever really pay me. You know what I mean? He said, "You get to live here." Like,
No more sandwiches for you.
I turned around and went and stood right back in front of his face and said, "You can't fire me. I quit." And there may have been more colorful language than that, but you know, and I left and a girl I was dating happened to show up from Malad at that time. I went and got in the car and I basically went to their house for a while. And I didn't plan on coming home. Like it was a blow up and I was in the wrong. I mean, I really was. I was in the wrong. My dad called me, you know, he didn't have to, but he was the adult and he was the parent. And he called me and apologized and said, "We want you to come home." And we want, you know, it taught me more about being an adult and being the person to say you're sorry than anything else in my life. And that's probably the most important thing he ever taught me is just do the right thing, even when you're not the person that was wrong. So he's my hero.
Thank
Great
you.
that you shared that with us.
Thank you for that. Very good. Collette, is there something that you would like to say as we close up?
There was never a better team of parents than mom and dad. The way they supported their kids, did whatever they had to make sure that we got our opportunities and were supported and really loved. There wasn't anybody better at that.
Yeah.
You guys, this has been really nice. I mean, we were concerned about it because it's still fresh in your minds, the passing of your parents. But I really appreciate you letting us help you honor your parents, because they did touch so many kids. If you can think how many kids and others in our community there in Grace that they had an impact on, it's infinite probably. So thanks for sharing those stories with us. We learned a lot about them too, that maybe we didn't know, and how they weren't just teachers or the nurse in the county. They were regular people too that had their challenges and struggles. So it's been fun, but it's been really nice to share a tribute to your parents.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you both for
you've
doing
been very
this.
gracious.
Really
Thank
cool.
It's funny, when he retired, when he finally decided to retire from teaching, he said, for a lot of years, I've had people come and say, you coached my mom and my dad. Says, now everybody says, you coached my grandpa and my grandma. That just means it's time to be done. I'm ready to be done.
We're not going to make it to generation 4. Yeah. Awesome. Very good. Well, thank you so much. Again, you've been so gracious with us to spend time with us. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you guys. And thanks for all the wonderful questions that help spark memories and bring things back. It's
Yeah.
really cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're welcome.
Good.
And don't be strangers.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll have to stay
You
connected
either.
in some way.
And Corky, you go by Alan now. You're Corky. You'll always be
Well, I'm
Corky.
quirky with Grace people and family, and my at home. My wife, it's kind of like code switching. She knows when to call me Alan and when to call me Corky. It's just like second nature now. It's
That's
crazy.
amazing.
Yeah.
Well, I wanted to chat with you because there's a good kid here from Fort Collins who's going to play basketball at Carroll College.
No
Really
way.
good. Yeah, he
Awesome.
played on club teams with my oldest son.
Okay.
He's just a good kid, Christian faith kid.
Yeah.
6'8", nicest kid in the world. If you see or have a Caden Cox, big, tall, blonde kid. from
Okay. Awesome. I'll look for him. I'll
I was
seek him
talking
out.
with his dad the other day, and
Yeah.
there's
Okay.
there's a teacher there who's from my hometown who's a good human being, and Caden should connect with him. So
Oh, awesome. Yeah, I'll look for him. I hang around the basketball players quite a bit, actually. Yeah.
He is the
What's your
nicest-
son's name? Remind me.
Jackson's my son's name.
Jackson. Okay.
They played on club teams together through junior high, and then they were in different high schools. And
Okay.
stuff.
Awesome.
And Caden's just a big, kindest, giant kid you can imagine.
Yeah. I'll look
Worked
for
really
him.
hard to be able to go play college basketball. So
Sweet. Wow. We're going to be happy to have him. We can have a new coach this year, and he's an awesome coach. He's a good young coach. So we're
Cool.
excited. Awesome.
That's
I
exciting.
will look for him.
Nice.
Well, you guys have a good night.
Thank you both
Thank
so
you.
much.
You're
Thank you,
welcome.
bud.
Nice
Thank
to see you, Brent.
Good. We'll see you in a couple of weeks. We'll go catch some fish.
See you in a
That's
couple
right.
weeks. And then Colleen after that.
That's right.
Awesome.
All right.
Take care.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Good night.
Have you ever wandered lonely through the woods? And everything that feels just as it should. You're part of a life there, you're part of something good. If you've ever wandered lonely through the woods. If you've ever wandered lonely through the woods. Have you ever stared into a starry sky? Lying on your back, you're asking why.
Bought a beautiful diamond ring, offered it to the sweetest thing I know, and she said she would take it. Started making some wedding plans. She looked at me and she took my hand and said, "Are you sure we can make it?" I said, "My granddad's still in love with my grandma." I said, "My dad still thinks my mom's the sweetest thing he ever saw." I come from a long line of love. When the times get hard, we don't give up. Forever's in my heart and in my blood. You see, I come